Welcome to Research Recap, our research podcast on making sense, the hub for JP Morgan corporate and investment bank podcasts. In each episode of Research Recap, we'll bring you the latest industry analysis and research insights from our team of award-winning experts.
Welcome to Research Recap. My name is Samantha Azzarello and I lead Content Strategy for Global Research here at JP Morgan. I'm joined today by Michael Feroli, our Chief US Economist, to talk about the October jobs report. So Mike, we're going to start where we always start, which is high level. Do you want to highlight some key numbers from the report and your observations of the state of the labor market at the moment?
Yeah, so we had 150,000 job gain last month, which was pretty close to expectations. However, I think when you dig into the numbers a little bit, it actually shows a decent amount of softening in labor market activity. Job growth was really driven by local government hiring and healthcare, so two not very cyclically sensitive sectors. The rest of the economy, you're seeing pretty good slowing in job growth. You're also seeing decline in the average work week. You're seeing less breadth in overall hiring. And so I do think it's consistent with an economy that looks like it's slowing down.
Okay, so as a corollary question, the uptick in the unemployment rate, walk us through if that means anything broader about the trend of the labor market.
Yeah, so the unemployment rate, as you mentioned, ticked up to 3.9%. It was 3.4% earlier this year at the low. So we've had a half-point move up. You might not want to make too much of a big deal out of 1 month's move, but we have seen a pretty consistent trend higher here. And I think you're seeing that slack opening up in other measures. So you're seeing like the U6 measure, which also includes other pockets of underemployment, that also moved higher. So I do think you're seeing a labor market that's looking a little less tight than it did several months ago.
Okay, so then let's turn to wage growth, which we know is an important input for the broader inflation outlook. ECI, the Employment Cost Index, earlier this week came in firmer, while the jobs report today showed that average hourly wages were up 0.2%, which some could say is on the softer side. I wanted to ask you, I guess, about that divergence and which indicator do you put more weight on?
So keep in mind that the ECI was for the third quarter, and October is, of course, the first month of the fourth quarter. That being said, I think when you look at the broad trends on a year-ago basis, both very consistent, both showing wage growth in the low fours, which is pretty good, which is actually something a year or two ago we were running more like the high fives on both of those measures. So this is probably something that's a little more consistent with a stable inflation environment.
Okay, and then the final question. Given that there's a mosaic of data that comes out around the labor market and we've seen revisions, you've told us broadly where you think the labor market's going. I guess I just want to ask, implications for the Fed, does anything change for the outlook from here?
So I think earlier this week we had an FOMC meeting and Chair Powell sounded pretty content to be on hold. And I think this really validates that they are going to be on hold, barring some big surprise between now and the next meeting at December. And overall, this looks consistent with kind of the soft landing message of an economy that is slowing down and maybe hopefully not slowing too fast. So we do think this is consistent, again, with Fed being on hold, not just in December, but for several months.
Thanks, Mike, for joining us on Research Recap. Looking forward to talking to you again next month. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. For more research insights, visit jpmorgan.com/research.
Thanks for listening to Research Recap. If you've enjoyed this conversation, we hope you'll review, rate, and subscribe to JP Morgan's Making Sense to stay on top of the latest industry news and trends. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. This communication is provided for information purposes only. Please read JP Morgan research reports related to its contents for more information, including important disclosures. Copyright 2023, JP Morgan Chase & Co., all rights reserved.